and a misunderstanding about the law of attraction. The human, the limited human, uses it like this. I want a new car. And they expect it to come to them. Well, it will, but it will probably hit them and send them flying. A limited human says, I need $1,000. I have to be able to pay my rent. Where it is becoming distorted right now is that it is turning into a mental exercise. Somebody out there wants to write a book, hundreds of pages, outlining it. And then the moment the human starts to read that book, they go mental, and then it shuts down, you see. The mind can only go so far. The law of attraction is your spirit, your soul. It is the deepest parts of you. It's not what the brain can conjure up.
We understand that money is one of the symbols of abundance on your planet, and that's all well and good. You can have as much money as you want. But the idea really is to relax the definition that it has to come that way, because then you open the doors through which abundance could come in all the other forms in which abundance could come to simply allow you to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Sometimes that can actually just be being gifted something. That's still a form of abundance when someone gives you a gift, because you're creating a reality that has an open door to accept the idea that you can be given something effortlessly without having to go through any specific machinations to make it happen.
Society will tell you that you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to achieve a particular result, and we'll tell you that's not true. What has to be is that your vibrational state has to be in alignment.
The idea is to also examine the belief systems where you might be resistance to the idea of abundance, because many of you have belief systems unconsciously that actually keep the idea of the experience of abundance at bay.
The person is conditioned for some degree of abundance or non-abundance, depending on the pre-existing conditions with the parents growing up. And so conditioning is the first place to look.
For example, you are raised on your planet with all sorts of contradictory and conflicting belief systems about money, such as love of money is the root of all evil. You will never be a success unless you have a lot of money. How do you allow those two things to coexist side by side without being confused?
Because the conditioning will determine what the belief systems are and what the subconscious is holding on to. And if there's limitations there, then you want to heal whatever that misconception is, because all humans are deserving, innately, inherently deserving. It's just a matter of recognizing it, owning it, understanding it, and believing it.
Many people who believe, well, I will never be successful if I don't have a lot of money, but also believe that I will become a greedy person, a bad person, if I only get a lot of money, may never allow themselves to become physically wealthy, because it is more important to them to be a good person than to be a bad one. So if they associate the idea of being a bad person with having a lot of money, then that's a belief they need to look at, because they don't have to have that association. The idea is not that you have to become more abundant than you are. The idea is to get in touch with what you are saying you are abundant in. And if you're abundant on lack, you will experience an abundance of lack.
You have a conflict going on now between the limited human and the souled being. The soul doesn't really necessarily care about all of the human whinings. None of it matters. It doesn't matter if you didn't pay your rent. It doesn't matter if you were a multimillionaire. None of it matters. Those are things of concern to the human aspect only. What the soul cares about, and what your spirit cares about, is consciousness, which means awareness. Your soul and your spirit cares about the joy of being. The joy of being, in other words, experiencing what is in front of you to experience.
We will tell you thought creates form, all right, but your emotional state's vibrated into being. So whatever you are putting out emotionally, you're going to get back energetically. And because the physical reality is reflecting the emotional, if there are lower frequencies that you are putting out, then what you're getting back in the physical realm are the lower frequencies.
The soul would rather have a bad experience for you than no experience at all. You see, those humans who try to run from experiencing things and doing things and creating things, they're really frustrating their own soul.
Whatever vibration you give off, whatever frequency you create or generate, determines utterly and absolutely whatever experience is reflected back to you from your reality, because physical reality really does not empirically exist apart from your definition of it. Even your own quantum physicists are beginning to discover this. So physical reality is likened to a mirror.
It's not going to say, well, Johnny's been a good boy today, so we're going to reward him, or Susie's been a bad girl today, so we're going to punish her. It's very impersonal. It has nothing to do with the traditional concepts of a punishing or judgmental God.
So whatever it is that you give off, whatever form you give yourself, however you define and identify yourself, is what is reflected back to you from your reality, so that you can decide whether you wish to retain that idea and that frequency or whether you wish to change it.
You create your realities. Every bit of your realities, from birth to death, and everything in between.
The vast, vast majority, unfortunately, majority of humans spend their valuable and precious creative energies chasing after the little things.
From our perspective, the most effective way to alter your reality is to get in touch with, consciously, the beliefs that have created the reality you are experiencing so far. To find out what that belief is, to identify it and define it, will give you conscious recognition of what has been generating your reality. Once you have defined the belief, you can then understand as a mechanism how it has been generating the frequency that's caused the reflection you've been experiencing. And once you define it and recognize that as the mechanism, you can then replace it with a belief that you prefer. And you can also then believe, if you wish, that that new belief will replace the old one just as effectively and create reality just as effectively as the old belief did. But once you replace the belief, and thus then it generates new emotions, new thoughts, and new behaviors, you will then get a new reality that is reflective of those ideas.
When your life changes like that, don't be surprised that it changes. That's one thing that always amazes the angelic beings that I work with. A human asks for change, and then their life starts changing, and then they, freak out, because they lose their job, and they lose their family, and they lose all that old baggage they've been carrying around. And they go into fear. But understand that as the changes begin, there's an evolution of energy. It is a cleaning house, getting rid of the old to make way for the new you.
We always say it's a bit like, placing your order with the universe, if you will. You climb the stairs to the rooftop of the building, and you throw your boomerang out to the universe. That's your order. All right? And so you've taken yourself to a frequency level up here. So you place your order, and then you start to worry about it. It hasn't come back yet. I must not deserve it. I'm not going to get it. So you drop yourself out. You go down a couple floors. Well, the order comes back, and you're not standing on the roof anymore. All right? You dropped out of the frequency range that exists in. So you've got to keep yourself the same rate at which you are placing your order.
It seems like you're saying that it's almost a choice, like setting goals or things. Something like that.
No goals. That is so mental. That is so, what do you say in your expression? So yesterday. So 80s, college was telling us. Forget the goals. It is an exercise in frustration, in futility. You, a sovereign being, don't need goals. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because you attract everything to you.
Certainly, it's never beneficial to anyone to do anything that does not feel good to them. And so many humans are doing things that don't feel good to them. And the perfect example of that is people are often in jobs they hate. They're doing the work for the money, not because they love it. So anytime you're doing anything that does not feel good to you or that does not resonate with you, you're doing yourself a great disservice. And you're distancing yourself more and more from your higher self.
When you make choices, you literally re-energize yourself. Think of yourself as a type of magnet or an attracting type of energy. When you make choices in your life, you attract all of the energies to you. We say to humans that all energy is there to serve you. It seeks to serve you. And the master allows energy to serve them.